This is Off Track.
Yeah, very good, very early morning, everyone. Well, I mean, Tim.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are we doing?
We're great because it's like a very rare episode of Tuesdays Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Everybody's here today, which is exciting for the fans.
You two.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we were trying to figure out a time to do this one. Alex was being gracious and trying to like not have Tim have to get up super early, but it was literally the only time I could do. So sorry, bud.
I actually don't really mind getting up and doing it like 6 a.m. You're welcome, Mark, specifically for you. Hazel and I are both sick though, so that did throw a wrench in the.
Yeah, is Hazel missing school today? Is she?
I don't know.
Sick,
she wakes up at 6:30, so I was gonna take her temperature then and see where we stand.
Such a good dad. So here's the thing. I was asking Tim before you got on, because he's obviously not feeling well either. I was like, so admittedly, would you prefer her to go to school so you could like nap and take care of yourself today? And he was like, honestly, no. Like, I'd much prefer if she was feeling that ill to stay home, but that's going to be a hard sell because she wants to go to school so bad. So like,
she does not like to miss school.
What an amazing father-daughter dynamic you guys have created.
You're both backwards. You're both backwards. You should want to get rid of the kid, and the kid should want to stay home. Instead, you're like, no, stay home with me. Let's be sick together. The kid's like, no, Dad, I want to go to school. Ew.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you guys got to remember sick days when you were kids when you just got to sit around and watch Jerry Springer all day.
That's not what I chose to watch.
It's just our family.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just put a movie on and hang out.
Yeah, it sounds great. And also, like, what is she missing? What is she missing in like grade 5, 6, whatever? What grade is she in?
She's in 5th. She's in 5th. Well, tonight is the Christmas concert, so she very much doesn't want to miss today.
Right. Yeah. And is she performing in said concert?
Yeah. She's in the choir.
Tell us all about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. That's the all about it.
Okay.
That was it. That was the whole thing.
It's the whole. All right. Well, yeah, you don't want to miss that. That would be bad.
All right. This has a roundabout way to come around to Christmas concerts. Do you guys have I told you the ongoing joke Marco and I have about a bottle of tequila?
No.
Do you remember
Marco's
years
not known
ago?
for ongoing jokes that last entirely too long.
Do you guys remember years ago when he had the he had that deal with whatever the tequila company was, and he would get like the etched bottles of tequila with people's name, with his friends' names. Yeah, I've been asking him where mine's been for years because I obviously
Dragones.
Yeah. So I've been asking and just texting him, hey man, my bottle still hadn't shown up, and just every time it's been, it's in the mail. And I was just thinking about this because Christmas concerts, everybody remembers Home Alone 2 when Kevin has a solo and Buzz like plays drums on his head with the candlesticks. So Marco sent me a cameo from the actor who played Buzz in Home Alone and Home Alone 2 with Buzz explaining that my tequila bottle is in the mail. Now again, this has been a joke we've had going for 5 years. So.
That's incredible.
So can we talk about how, I mean, it's Marco Andretti, right? Like a pretty big name. I love the fact that he is the one that orders cameos. Like, he doesn't do cameos for people. He pays money to random people to get cameos done.
Yeah. Well, this is not the first time Marco and I have sent each other cameos. We usually use Fred Stoller.
But speaking of backwards, it's crazy.
It's pretty solid.
I like how between you and Marco, you guys have like bought Fred Stoller a new apartment with all your cameos. Like it's just, why don't you guys just exchange numbers at this point so you could all just get on like FaceTime?
Well,
together?
no, like you can pay him, but then cut out the fees of cameo.
Cut out the
like
middleman.
Save everyone money. Yeah.
Just be like, every time we're in New York, we'll come take you to dinner. But here's the deal. We got to just FaceTime you at random times.
I wouldn't take that deal.
No, that would be knowing how often Tim FaceTimes people at random times. It's not a deal I'd want to be a part of.
It's usually for good reasons.
No,
it's almost never.
It's for good reasons for me.
Even then, not really. It's tough, man. It's tough. I gotta. The problem you run into, Tim, is you run the risk of boy who cries wolf syndrome, where like now
This
we
actually
just
just
stop
came up right before you
answering.
came
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tim and I were just talking about this. Yeah.
So we're just going to stop answering because 9 times out of
But
10 you just
James,
hey,
it's a
I
numbers
just-
game.
Yeah,
You're like,
it's a numbers game.
Numbers game.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Oh man, I feel like if Alex calls, if I see the phone ringing, it's Alex, I'll be like, oh, I should answer this. It's probably important. If Tim calls, it's like he's probably telling me that he went to Tao Fung Dum for lunch or something, and that's the extent of the message.
It's Din Tai Fung, first of all.
Whatever,
but,
whatever.
whatever. Yeah.
Or shabu shabu.
I might go there for lunch today. That does.
That's
sound
not
good.
what sick people do.
Yeah, but I can order it in. Soup dumplings sound amazing.
That actually does sound pretty good. I could totally go for some soup dumplings right now. Okay.
All right. Well, let's stick on the movie theme. We've been trying to come up with
What were we talking
different-
about that was movie related?
Yeah.
Home
What do
Alone
we-
2.
Oh, wow.
I guess
in my
that's
head.
That's a reach.
To be
okay.
to be fair, he did send through the cameo. That's Buzz today. That's that's Buzz.
That
All
guy
right.
drops every possible reference to Home Alone and Home Alone 2 into that cameo.
Does he? Well, hey, it was a 2.5 minute cameo. He earned his money.
Got your money's worth, yeah.
And I think I can see where the tequila went based on his performance.
Okay, so you talking Buzz got one and you didn't? Wow, man, that's brutal.
Okay, so Chris, our Sirius XM guy, has been saying for years we should do something about racing movies on Tuesday
Yeah.
podcasts.
Yeah.
And because you guys respect Chris and don't respect me, we decided we're going to do that today.
Never have, never will.
Yeah. So let's go over. Do you guys have? And we probably should have talked about this beforehand to make sure it's not the same one. Do you guys
That
have
would be very off brand
favorite
for us.
a favorite racing movie?
Yes.
No. But if I'm
That's very on brand for us.
if I'm forced to choose one, like I have one that I prefer over the others.
Okay.
So
Do you have any that you feel like you need to see? Like any that you
No.
missed? No? Okay. All right.
No,
So
I mean, I
then
fue like we're pretty good about
There's
seeing
not that
anything
many
that
of
comes
them.
out. Yeah, like it's
there are more than you would think. Like there's some
look,
old ones.
we're going to start this off with the worst racing movie of all time because we're just going to get this out of the way and it's going to be divisive and there's going to be people that fight back. But again, you're wrong. Driven is the worst racing movie of all time. It is.
you think it's worse than Fast and Furious 11?
Do we call those racing movies? I don't call those racing movies. No.
The first one kind of is.
The first one was.
It's a street racing movie. That's like it's an illegal thing. That's not even it's not even a drag racing movie. It's a street racing movie.
Okay.
So
But yes,
no,
I agree. Driven
it's
is
just
the worst.
horrific.
Yeah.
The storyline's garbage, and what's terrifying is it's the exact same storyline as the new F1 movie that's coming out. So hold this position just in case they manage to outdo Driven.
But instead of picking up quarters, he's picking up pound coins because it's F1.
Yeah.
50p coins.
Wait, isn't the quarter scene in Toronto?
Yeah, it sure was.
So why aren't they picking up loonies and toonies?
It's a great point. Well, I don't think toonies were around back then.
That's the one thing you're questioning of the accuracy of the movie.
Yes. Yes. Everything else
So anyway.
about that movie is perfect.
Right.
Now that we've established that it's awful, the only good thing that they did was use shots of real drivers and stuff and kind of make it look like they actually filmed it on real race weekends. And the idea, concept was good. Just execution was horrifically poor. Alex, I'm very curious what your favorite racing movie is.
Focus.
Again, are we calling that a racing movie because it has an IndyCar in it?
I mean, it's just because Margot Robbie's in it, bro. Will
No, that's
Smith.
100%.
No, that is not my favorite racing movie. My favorite racing movie, if I'm forced to choose, right, which I am for the sake of this podcast,
For at least the next 10 minutes. Yes.
right, Days of Thunder.
Okay.
That's a great one.
The reason for that is I feel like self-explanatory, but the cast is elite, right? I'm a much bigger fan than I think most people my age group of Nicole Kidman. I think she's awesome.
Yeah,
Obviously, you got Tom Cruise. Who was the guy, the kind of older
Duvall.
Robert Duvall.
Yeah. John C. Reilly's in that. I mean,
Right.
I kind of
It's another-
inadvertently spawned Talladega Nights.
Sure. It's another, like, the same guy that did Top Gun did that movie, right?
Tony Scott, yeah.
Tony Scott. So it's got that same kind of, it's not quite to the magnitude of Top Gun, but it's got that similar kind of feel to it of an action emotion. You have the emotional connection to it. The phrase rubbing is racing came out of it, right? Fire.
Still used today.
Used today.
In like a non-ironic way, right? Like people still say shake and bake, but like that's not a real way. People actually say Rubbin's Racing because it is.
Right.
It is insane how stacked of a cast that movie is.
Exactly. Yes. And I just think that movie, much like Top Gun, right? It's not, you're not annoyed by, when you watch Top Gun, you're not annoyed that like, oh, that's not perfectly representing the U.S. Navy, right?
Like when they shift to 15th gear, you're like, yeah, it's all right.
No, but
you decide to go full throttle. Yeah.
You're excited. you don't mind because you're entrenched in a movie that isn't supposed to be about the realism of the movie. It's not trying to be a perfect representation of racing, right? Whereas it's just supposed to be a fun movie, and racing is the centerpiece of it, just like Top Gun, the Navy's the centerpiece of it. So that's why none of the fakeness of it bothers me, and it's just an entertaining movie with a great cast and a good director and a cool soundtrack. Like Hans Zimmer's the soundtrack, right? Like, so it's a movie you can watch.
Going into the score, well done.
It's a movie you can watch at any point. Whereas, like, I'm going to tell you a movie.
Shout out to Robert Towne, who wrote it. Phenomenal screenwriter.
I'm going to tell you a movie that I hated for the very reasons that I just explained. I like Days of Thunder, was the Gran Turismo movie, because that was based loosely on a true story, right? Of a guy who got found via the Gran Turismo video game, Jan Mardenborough, right? And Nissan did this like Gran Turismo Academy, where it was kind of like the Red Bull driver search, where they found guys that were super good on the video game, gave them a chance at like a shootout, and then the winner of that got supported by Nissan to go sports car racing, right? And Jan ended up being like an actually pretty legit driver. And so the storyline was correct, but all of the on-track car scenes were so dumb, and they filmed everything at a single track. Now, people wouldn't know that, but me knowing where the Hungaroring is, right, and what that track looks like, every single scene, whether they were at Le Mans or at the beginning of the storyline, it was at that place, just cut from different corners. So like that really bothered me. And like the onboard stuff, you know, they used the Gran Turismo video game, so like they were trying to represent it as like real world racing, but it was the graphics from the video games that bothered me, even though the story was good and it was a cool representation of something that did happen. I hated the movie. So that's why, in summary, Days of Thunder, I love it because it's not trying to be a racing movie. It's just trying to be a good action movie, and it succeeds at that.
Yeah, so Tim, I stand corrected. When you asked, is there any we haven't seen? I actually haven't seen that movie because it looked so bad. I decided to not even watch it.
Yeah, I saw that with Alex, and I don't know anything about racing, and even I was just like, yeah, this is good.
Not for me. not for me. Okay, so yeah, that was the one you hated the most, one you liked the most. So we already know my most hated is Driven. The one I like the most, I'm not sure how many people have seen it, but it's called Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And
okay.
That movie to me was still the best racing movie ever made, because it was like the least Hollywood in so many ways, right? Like I totally agree with what you say about Days of Thunder, that it kind of had that, you know, that cinematic feel, and it kind of had some of the things that may be like inaccuracies, but for the sake of the story, it made sense and it wasn't too egregious, so it was tolerable, whatever. It didn't even have any of that. Like,
yeah, it was.
This was an old school.
You're talking about the 1966 one with James Garner, right?
James Garner.
Okay. Goes to work like 14 F1 races over the past 2 years, and all of a sudden, Grand Prix is his favorite movie.
Dude, I'm on record saying this years ago. This movie is incredible because it's about there's so much good racing action, right? There's so many good scenes. of on track. They did it a lot more realistically than like most racing movies today do it. And dude, you got to remember, like when they filmed this in the mid 60s. They literally had to strap cameramen with like 80-pound cameras on the front of formula cars and just say, all right, go rip them. And like, that's awesome. Yeah. That is awesome. And there are like long parts with no dialogue, and there's no score at some points. It's just the engines and the cars and the racing and acting while driving, because it's open face helmet, so you can actually see stuff. You don't have to like unrealistically have a clear visor so that you can see a driver's eyes and making all these facial expressions, whatever. And it captures the like risk and the danger and what it's like for the partners of drivers, and it's just a really, really well done movie.
So where do you guys put like some of the newer stuff, like Rush or those? So where do you put those on the?
I wanted to get Alex's opinion on. So what's interesting to me about Rush is it's a people movie, right? The story is about the people in that one. It's not really about the racing.
All are, right?
Yeah,
like Days of Thunder is about getting over the trauma of that accident.
Right. So Rush I liked a lot. I would put Ford versus Ferrari ahead of
That's
Rush.
what I was going to ask. I was going to ask your opinion on that one, because that one I thought was a really, really good movie.
Yeah, me too.
Statcast, great story.
Yes. I think they take a little bit of the page out of Grand Prix' book. Weren't they strapping cameras to cars and to get some of the side-by-side stuff? Or?
What they did was really cool. Was they put a car on a trailer and drove the trailer around the track. So the guy's doing the corners and it's like the real scenery in the background, but you don't have to have the like actual actor driving, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So like that part was kind of clever. But yeah, so it wasn't all CGI. This is the thing about Rush. Like any on-track scene in Rush was just really bad CGI.
Correct.
So a weird thing about Rush was they originally intended that movie to not have any racing scenes. The idea was that it was written to be a lower budget film. And so it was going to be like the racing was all going to happen off screen. And then as the budget kind of expanded and it became a bigger movie, they decided to incorporate the on-screen action. But yeah, it was more of an afterthought, which like Ford versus Ferrari, it was very forward with it.
But see, I like how that, look, if you're a racing fan, you know about Le Mans, and if you're a historian at all, you probably know about the Ford story, you know, the GT40 and at least some of the history behind that. But what I liked about that was it took a well-known racing story, but maybe a lesser known kind of pop culture story, and told it well, and I think made casual racing fans aware of it and made them enjoy it. And it's like a really cool part of racing history, one of the biggest races in the world, put a spotlight on that. Again, there's a lot of new race fans these days. I thought that part was really great. Unlike, if we're going to keep bouncing back and forth between movies that did it well and movies that did not, Ferrari. That was a tragically disappointing film.
Very bad
You
movie.
have one of the coolest characters in the history of motorsport, maybe in the history of sport, in Enzo Ferrari. And you think that the story is going to be really about him and how he did what he did. And it was like 10% of that. And then 90% was focused on a rally race, road race, the Mille Miglia, that is really not that big outside of Italy anymore. It was maybe at a time, but it's not really a thing. And to focus on that, it's not where Ferrari, like maybe where they made their name, in the sense that's kind of what got them started. But like Formula One is what people associate that with. And more stories of his life and the car company would have been welcome. But focusing on a race that doesn't have a lot of relevance today and doesn't really have as much significant, like historical significance as, say, Le Mans does, I thought was just way.
At least the wreck was super realistic.
Well, the wreck may have been unrealistic, but at least all the Italian accents were horrible.
The other one that's bad. Here's a good, and I had forgotten about it until just now. Did you ever see Art of Racing in the Rain?
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, I have a complaint about this one though.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you the reasons why I like it. Number one, I read the book first because a buddy of mine, sister, cousin, family member, was the wife of the guy who wrote it, Garth Stein. So I kind of got given the book way early on. and connected with it because I'm a dog person. So the stories about
and a racing person
and a racing person.
Well,
yeah.
big dog guy.
Dog person
Big dog
first.
guy.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of, and I think more movies should be told this way. It's a movie told through the story of the dog's eyes, right?
It's a
About his
different
owner
perspective.
who is trying to be a racing driver. And you have that human connection to a golden retriever, right? And so if you haven't seen it, it's an amazing movie. You don't watch it for any sort of realism of racing. That's not the point. The point is you're watching a movie as explained, narrated by a golden retriever about his dad who's just trying to be a race car driver, either in F1, either in IMSA, anything, and the ups and downs of that. And it's really amazing.
My complaint on it, fantastic movie. I went into that movie watching it not really knowing anything about it. I was at a friend's house. I'd just flown to a friend's place, and I was jet lagged, so they all went to bed. I was like, oh, I'm just going to check out this movie. Now, I mentally prepare going into a movie about a dog for the dog to die.
Right.
I was not mentally prepared for that movie. I was
Spoiler
openly
alert.
sobbing at that. I'm not going to say why, but I was open. Like, if you have not seen it and you're going to go watch it, it's great. It's a fantastic movie.
It's
if
more
you don't
emotional than
cry,
Old
you're
Yeller.
not a human being.
Yeah.
Dude. So
It's horrible.
So yeah, again, had read the book, knew the story, knew what was coming, watched it on a flight. We were doing, Becky and I think we're flying to our honeymoon. And so long flight.
Oh, that's a good
Becky's
romantic
asleep.
honeymoon
Well, no,
movie.
Becky was asleep on the plane. So I was like, all right, I want to watch this movie. So I watched the movie and I am absolutely bawling on the plane. Movie ends. Right as the movie ends, Becky starts stirring. She wakes up. She's like, "Oh, you been doing?" I was like, "I just watched R Racing the Rain. Whatever you do not watch that movie right now. This is not the time. You don't want to watch it." And so, of course, 8 minutes
watched
later, I
it,
look
yeah.
over. She's starting Art Racing the Rain. And so now that I know like all the key moments, I keep like looking over, like knowing when a moment's coming. I'll be like, and she's just bawling. At one point, the flight attendant came by and was like, "Oh my God, Miss, is everything okay?" She's like, "I just missed the movie. More wine, please." You know, it was so funny. But no, incredible movie. Incredible movie. And great performance from our buddy Milo.
So it's about 6:30, which means I got to go wake Hazel up and get her check on everything for school. But if you guys out there listening have racing movies you feel like we missed and didn't discuss, we still got some off season left. We're taking next week off for Christmas, but send us some suggestions. I will make these guys watch them, and we can turn this into like a movie.
There's no
podcast.
way that they're going to suggest something we haven't seen.
I don't know, man. There's some old
Le Mans.
ones.
We didn't talk about Le Mans, which I'm sure will come up.
Right.
Which is a great
movie.
one. We can talk about that one next time. I'm trying to think of other ones that we didn't touch on.
There's Cars.
Well, yeah. I mean, fair. That's actually the first one.
Cars
really
and Cars
good
3. Cars 2 is randomly a spy movie.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
There's Turbo.
Turbo Secretariat's a great racing movie.
Okay. That's, well, whatever you guys say in the comments, we'll go from there. In the meantime, hope you feel better, Tim. More importantly, hope Hazel feels better. Good Lord. Bye, guys.
This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram, and if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.